I'm Ed Goddard, and join me on this week's physical performance show. Never mind the bollocks, here's the Sex Pistols.
Ed Goddard, welcome to the Physical Performance Show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Ed, you and I have been connected for several years now via our mutual running friend and, in fact, former featured performer of the show, Brad Calderfeld. And that was around the time that you ran into a decent injury in your heel, which
sure.
we'll discuss on this recording. But welcome to the show. Many Australian distance running fans will know you and your trademark golden mullet, but many won't. So, Ed, just let's do a bit of background digging on your beginnings in running and how the journey has taken you through to where we are now.
For sure. No, it's been a cool journey. Started last year at primary school, slowly sort of made my way up through the ranks. Like, I wasn't amazing in high school. Made nationals first time year 11, came second in nationals in year 12, and then sort of got on a bit of a roll after I left school. Got a good group in Sydney in 2016, training with some top juniors and sort of top guys in Sydney. Spent 2.5 years at college in America, and now back and rolling around the streets of Sydney again.
What got you interested in the sport of athletics or running to begin with? Were there any athletes you aspired to be like or that caught your attention?
What sort of got me into it, like, I loved how you could get yourself selected in teams. Like, coming from a lot of team sports, I played a lot of cricket, and there's a lot of other factors in selection. It's sort of hard to make a name for yourself, whereas running, I enjoyed that the results showed all the work I was putting in.
So you were attracted by that fact that one in should equal one out. The purity of the sport, I think we all, endurance world, love the purity of it. There's not really any equipment involved bar shoes, and obviously we're dealing with the super shoe era at the moment. But typically, barring injury or mishap, is what you get out. The result is then. Ed, so if I hear the story correctly, there was some promising early results, but there was nothing where you were marked as, I guess, a childhood prodigy, or were...
For sure, yeah. Nothing really early on. Like, I wasn't close to making World Juniors or anything. I think my big breakthrough was I came third at Zatopek under 20s in first year out of school. And then the year after, my first 10K, ran 29:04 at Zatopek and sort of got a bit of a name for myself, I guess. Ran Gold Coast half and came third in 2018. And then, that was kind of it. And just kept the ball rolling since then.
A 29:04 is not a bad debut for a 10,000 meters.
Yeah, no, I was happy with it. It was fun. I guess it was a pretty tactical race that year. I led I think it was 18 laps or something as well. And sort of, I wasn't on the same level as those top guys, but because it was tactical and getting to sort of run with guys you looked up to, like your whole junior athletics career, that was pretty special and sort of drives you to want more and keep chasing it.
Which runners were you stoked to be on that start line with in that race?
Well, so I was sixth. The top six, it was Stuart McSwain, Pat Tiernan, then there was Dave McNeil, Jack Rayner, and then myself in sixth. I think seventh was Andy Buchanan. Yeah. So, it was good company. And then the youngest guy, sort of first year of senior running, it was pretty cool.
How old were you at that point, Ed?
I think I was 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So young in years, as you say, with great company, and most of those mentioned athletes we have featured on the show. So it's about time we got Ed Goddard to feature as well.
Sure.
Ed, what would you say to date is the running performance that you would rate most highly in terms of representing, best potential self at the moment? What are you most proud of?
Yeah. I think there's a few different things. Like, I guess when you look at something you're proud of, it's often results based. But then on the other hand, there's a lot of things where you've sort of overcome certain things or raced a tactically smart race or applied yourself really well and got that sort of hit that goal. And so coming fourth at World Uni Games in 2019 was was a big one for me. It was sort of an awkward end of an awkward year. Had low iron, a lot of issues with that, and sort of took me out of racing for a number of months. Went to Japan, went to America, did college visits in both countries, which was cool. And then just before I started in college in America, went over to Italy and came fourth at World Junior Games, which was really cool. And so my first taste of somewhat success on an international stage.
And domestically, you've had some great results. Just recently, only a matter of a week ago at the time of recording, you ran on the Gold Coast, Australia, 2022's edition of the Gold Coast Marathon. You ran in the half marathon, finished in second place behind Australian half marathon record holder Brett Robinson with a great run, 63:19. Compared with your PB set in Launceston at the end of 2020 of 62:16, so just over a minute outside of your PB.
For sure.
Great to be back racing in Australia with Nation, I guess, after the Gold Coast Marathon was on hiatus for 3 years.
Yeah, literally. It's good to be back.
And Melbourne Marathon, Ed, 2021, you finished in third place, going out hard and fast and finishing in 2:13. That day, just over 2:15, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. I lost a bit of time at the end. It was a tough slog, that last mile.
And, that race, once again, won by Brett Robinson, second Thomas Decano, and then third yourself. So another star-studded field. Ed, we talk about the highs, lows, and learnings of this show. What would you say has been your darkest day in your young burgeoning career to date?
Darkest day? I mean, NCAA's cross-country nationals in 2019 was pretty grim. It was like it just snowed a few days before, but it was sort of warm enough for it to be raining rather than snowing on that day, and it was mud everywhere, and it was just the coldest I've ever been in my life towing that start line, and I'd been unwell as well, so it was a pretty grim day out there. And I guess racing into the NCAA, it's just so deep. Like you have to be on your game to be performing, and that was just a horrible experience.
And so, how did that race finish up for you?
It was terrible. I was low hundreds. Yeah.
Out of a field
something bad.
Out of a field,
about I think 260.
That's a big.
So it was that was grim.
A big field, Ed. And what did you learn from your college years running in America? How would you come to the time you would have spent otherwise in Australia?
Yeah, I mean, college. It was funny because I ran okay over there, but it's ironic that the break when I was back in Australia, I was running decently well at college, but it kind of came at the end of that low iron period. I got pretty sick, for that race I told you about. And so cross country season first year was a bit of a write-off. Race okay in indoors, and then COVID hit, came back to Australia. And that's kind of where I had my success while I was still at college, but I ran the first four races after sort of the COVID hiatus, around 4 PBs, around 28, 23, 62, 16. I did another road race. It was like a 14K, and I ran 255s as well. So it was a good season. And I think just being at college just exposed me to the level in which I sort of needed to be. It's sort of easy to take the foot off the gas sometimes in Australia when you're just comparing yourself to whoever you're racing on a state level. But sort of going and racing strong fields, it really it makes you apply yourself and get the most out of yourself and do the 1%. I think also coming there's not really a junior transition in Australia, and I think going to college you learn a lot about yourself. And it's funny because I remember training with sort of MTC in 2018, guys like Ryan Gregson. I remember one conversation I was having with him at Falls Creek, and he was like, oh, like it was about sort of recovery. And he was like, oh, like, what are you doing? Like between runs, you should be relaxing rather than being busy doing random things. Cause he's like, sort of no athlete does that. And at the time I was like, oh, like I understand where you're coming from, but like I didn't really know. I sort of had to make some mistakes myself. But it's funny, like looking back on that conversation, like I'd give myself the exact same advice as he was giving me back then. But it's funny, you sort of have to make those mistakes. And I think making them at college and then coming back into senior athletics is a good way to do it.
So you made mistakes while you're over there. You said you learn a lot about yourself and you did the 1%ers. What were the 1%ers?
For sure.
Is that like recovery?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like recovery, I just didn't understand like how big a thing it was. Like I thought sort of fitness was something that was ever improving. But I didn't look as fitness as something where you needed downtime to actually make those gains. I thought it was just a process of doing things and then doing more things, whereas it's sort of a process of doing things and recovering from those things and then being able to do the same thing but better.
Gosh, I think you just in a few sentences summarize the training adaptation cycle.
Yeah.
And I know you've heard it on this show, Ed, and we talk about it regularly, but that beautiful maxim from recovery scientist and expert Shona Halson that the only training we benefit from is the training that we recover from.
For sure.
Ed, you mentioned that you learn a lot about yourself over there in college. What's one of the big learnings you took away about yourself from your college years?
I mean, I think the big thing is like sort of everyone's unique and it's sort of okay to do things the way you want to do things. Like I think there's some certain things you have to hit, like some certain KPIs in terms of like training, adequate amount of recovery, and stuff like that. And sort of set workouts and set races you sort of have to get through. But sort of away from those key things, I think the main factor is you've got to enjoy it and you've got to make it sustainable as well. And I think those two things go pretty hand in hand because like the more you enjoy what you do, the more fun you have on a day-to-day. Like that's the most sustainable thing. Like I know I run with some guys and like even when they're young, they're like, oh, like I think I'll run for like maybe another sort of 4 years and then it might be time to hang up the boots. But like I think those guys are probably not enjoying it as much as they should be because like I sort of look at running as something where you would never retire from. Like it's just something that I love doing and it's something that's part of my day-to-day life. And I think I always want to do that. Yeah,
they Steve Monaghetti Gold Coast Marathon 1:14.
Yeah, honestly.
55 to 59-year-old.
For sure.
Just outstanding. Ed, your genes, I've had the pleasure of meeting your mum and dad, John and Jenny. Where do your running genes come from? Has there been a running lineage in your family at all?
I mean, mum runs, dad used to run. He's more into cycling. Grew up watching the Tour de France and sort of a lot of different sports, a lot of mountain biking growing up. And I think, I mean, when I was little, like all I ever wanted to do was play professional sport, whether that be cricket at an international level or like another sport or be a professional cyclist. Like that's sort of all I ever wanted. And I guess running is the endurance sport I fell into, but I'm sure it could have as easily been cycling or whatever.
And I have seen you spend some time on a bike, particularly around injury phases. For
sure.
It's something that you seem to ride a bike pretty well for someone that wouldn't identify as a cyclist. Yeah. Also see you jumping in the water a lot, and your Instagram bio lists you as the CEO of the swim club, I think it is, isn't it? Club?
Which I am, yes.
Tell us a little bit more about this swim club.
I mean, I guess swim club sort of started out sort of as a running group, but there's a big emphasis on sort of the enjoyment and the social side of it. Sort of our group of friends who are part of swim club, we're all avid swimmers, guys who like to spend a lot of time at the beach. And we had a good group, like we had a good squad we're working out with as well when we had everyone back from America with COVID. And it was kind of just guys love to spend time together, running, having fun, and just enjoying themselves. And I think sort of the beach focus was somewhere we found ourselves after most runs, or if not every run. Sort of went from there.
So yeah, a fun training group, yeah, or a bunch of runners.
Basically, yeah.
On training, Ed, you're a fun Strava follow. Every run has a musical theme. Today's run, a 9.4K run, was listed as Paradise City, Guns N' Roses. Yesterday's run, this morning's run, that was this afternoon, was listed as Come As You Are, Nirvana. Rainbow in the Dark by Dio before that. Moonage Daydream, David Bowie. Against the Wind, Bob Seger. So what's the and you often feature pictures of albums. What's the fascination with music?
Yeah, I sort of just love rock and roll music. To me, that sort of is part of my triangle of fun. I guess it's like my Illuminati is like music, and then running, and then swimming. And that's kind of just like what I base my day around. I think music's such a good pathway to match whatever mood you're in, whether you need to be hyped up or whether you need to chill out. And it's just something you can always learn about, and it's fun. And yeah, I just love rock and roll.
And you've got a fair vinyl collection, I believe.
Yeah, I think about 650 albums to 700. So it's pretty good. If you name it, I've probably got it.
It's a lifelong interest in your young years, 24, 25 years of age, Ed, or is this something you've taken to in recent times?
I mean, Dad and Mum both. Mum was a music producer for a bit, sort of in this new wave 80s, and Dad like big rock and roll fans, sort of like 60s, 70s, 80s. Like, so, I mean, I got good music genes as well. And I mean, that's something else that's been passed through the generations. Like, and I'm glad, like, I can't stand a lot of the new music as well. So I'm always happy to venture back through the decades.
And any great recent discoveries, or who's been on your playlist this week post your half marathon on the weekend just gone?
Oh, I saw the new Thor movie 2 nights ago, and there was a lot of Guns N' Roses in that. So I've been listening to them. I used to have a lot more OCDs, but my current OCD is I always listen to a Rolling Stones song and a song by the Eagles every single day. And so they're always frequent on the playlist. But yeah, no, I'm sure it'll pop up on social media or somewhere in a few weeks. But I watched a good documentary on a American country rock singer called Graham Parsons. And I spent sort of an exuberant amount of money on a suit which he's worn. So I have to style that soon.
Oh, I thought you might have paraded that around on the Gold Coast at the Gold Coast Marathon.
Yeah.
And so your triangle of fun, I like that illustration: music, swimming, and running.
Yeah.
And, you used the word sustainable before. That's something that we've featured on this show through the work of Dr. Stephen Seiler about the need for training to be sustainable for attainable goals. What are you learning about training at the moment? Like, what have you learned in recent times? You could look at your Strava account and think, you don't see a lot of steady paced runs, but then it's relative. Your upper end's much faster than most people. So, what are you learning about training at the moment?
I mean, I'm kind of in I guess that kind of brings us back to when I broke my foot. It's been sort of an interesting it's been an interesting path since then. I guess before I broke my foot, I had developed red Fs in the sense that I was sort of overtraining, under fueling, and that was kind of the main thing, not recovering enough. And I think that stemmed from sort of a lot of the COVID year. Instead of getting those races and those down weeks, I sort of found myself in sort of long training blocks. Which was going well. Like, I ran really well off the end of it. But it was kind of a bit like Icarus. Like, I sort of wanted more and more, and I wanted sort of bigger workouts and harder workouts. And I was pretty comfy running 180 Ks every week. And And then as soon as I sort of got the idea of racing a marathon in my head and I ramped the training up, I didn't ramp the recovery up and I didn't ramp the food intake up either. And I think that was sort of my first mistake, culminating in the broken foot. I cycled like close to 500K a week on the bike in that cross-training period. So I stayed fit and I got back to running pretty quickly. But my second big hiccup last year was my vaccine booster. Or not even my booster, my first vaccine. I got pericarditis, which was annoying, and it caused a lot of, firstly, sort of heart inflammation, and then sort of other inflammation issues in the body with sort of a bit of compartment syndrome. And I did a lot of my running on the Ultra G last year, sort of with the focus of Melbourne Marathon being a good goal for the end of the year. Not like a super quick marathon, but sort of something can dip the toe in. It was funny because like that was in July and the body came good late October. And so that was sort of a big chunk of time off, or not off, like I was still running, but a lot of it on the Ultra G. And sort of when I came good, I remember the borders had just opened to go to America, and NCAA as well. Like they had the whole the new rules that you could be sponsored and could run at college. And so even though I was with ASICS by that point, I thought, why not go to college, finish out my time there and race nationals. So I flew out one Wednesday, I raced on the Friday, and then raced the following Saturday NCAAs, flew home, and then 10 days later raced Melbourne Marathon.
I remember that period, Ed, and just looping back there, the two, I guess, challenges you've had to overcome in recent times being the calcaneal stress fracture, which I believe you may have shared a photo of on your gallery. If not, I certainly have that and would happily share it as a learning point. But that, it looked like the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, 3 by 3 centimeters.
Yeah, and you mentioned the term RED-S, relative energy deficiency in sport, which we've shared and we'll continue to share around this important topic. But what you use then the phrase to explain that underfueling and overtraining and the result energy deficit. But you've got a great team around you, Jess Rothwell, Australian Athletics sports dietitian. I know she was instrumental in your return. What things did you learn about fueling in terms of the fact that you were under fueling, and how have you changed your practices to, at the moment, be sustaining good, consistent training?
I think the main thing with sort of fueling is it is something you can feel as well. Like you do know when you're under fueling, and I think you know when you're under fueling because you get hungry less frequently. And I think that's the first sign. It was almost like, I don't know, my body was almost like convincing itself it wasn't hungry, I guess, because you sort of go into that almost survival mode when your body is like, oh, I can actually use up other stores, or I can sort of burn other things as sort of an energy source, which I guess is where stress fractures arise from. And so going forward, like looking at my diet, making sure I'm getting the right thing in, and also eating frequently as well, like keeping the metabolism high, making sure I'm getting hungry. I mean, not starving myself to get hungry, but like, I mean, when your metabolism's going and when you're training, like you do get hungry. And I think that's a good sign it's all going well. I mean, I know you use this other triangle a lot, and I know some other friends use it, but happy, horny, hungry, like, I mean, it doesn't get much truer than that.
I mean, I don't phrase it directly like that, but I think it's a fun way of pointing out that for male athletes, it's not as evident as female counterparts who will have menstrual disturbances, and that's fairly evident. But males do tend to fly under the radar in having any awareness about being in a state of low energy availability. And one of those, as you just mentioned, Ed, can be a reduction in libido.
Yes.
And the semi-crude but very stickable and gets through to the blokes mantra that you could probably finish this one. How's the mantra go, Ed?
Boner a day keeps doctor away.
Keeps the bone stress away. And we have a bit of fun with that. But you've done really well in sustainable training and returning to running post that significant bone stress injury. Just loop in there to the next challenge you mentioned, the COVID vaccine. So was that your first dose or was that your subsequent dose?
That was my first dose, which was annoying because, the other thing when I had Red S, and I got a blood test just after Zatopek, my testosterone was 6, which is super low, way in the unhealthy low level, which is kind of annoying because I was like, damn, it would have run a lot quicker had it been higher. But annoying because when I got my blood test for the heart condition, my testosterone and all my other levels were sort of back up. And so I was sort of getting back on a roll. And then heart inflammation, getting my heart rate to 220 on easy jogs and stuff like that.
Gosh. And it's something that many listeners of the show have requested, and that is an expert edition around returning to sport post-COVID. And we're looking at bringing that to people's earbuds. Most people listening have probably had COVID now.
For sure.
And despite media recognition of this, there have been many cited cases, and I certainly know of a handful of young athletes, particularly males, who have battled pericarditis post the vaccine. I think it's been spoken about with a lot more openness now that the mandates, certainly here in Australia, have passed, mainly passed, and people are acknowledging that there have been these side effects in certain individuals. What did that mean to you then, being able to go and cross borders when all the mandates are in place and things? Were you granted an exemption after that bout of pericarditis from your first vaccine?
I got my second vaccine after that, and I had no repeat of symptoms. Other than the inflammation, I'm sure it exacerbated, and it's crazy because I don't think there's sort of a certain easy way out, because I've got friends in England and Australia and America who sort of had the exact same issues post COVID as well. So it's it is a tough one, and I guess it's tough. I think timing, and I think if I had my time again, I probably would have taken it pretty chill in those sort of days after. But that's one of those learning curves, and sort of one of the things I found in running is most of the times when you actually learn about things is after you've actually sort of been dealt the blow. That's sort of how it's been sort of with iron and Red S as well. I didn't really know much about them at all before I had issues with them. So where I am at now, I'm sort of trying to get sort of ahead of the curve and sort of learn about getting back to sustainable sort of levels, trying to work out what's feasible and what's not with training.
And practically, with getting on top of your low iron, how did you turn that around, Ed? Working with the
infusion, yeah. It's one thing I always tell people, if they got super low iron, I'm just go and get an infusion, because you could take 6 months trying to get it up with tablets, and it might not really go up that much. And then if you've taken all that time trying to get it up with tablets and it hasn't worked, you've just wasted 6 months. So it's I'd get onto that sort of quicker if I was sort of anyone dealing with that. But as well, I think a lot of those issues sort of all come hand in hand as well. I think iron is another risk factor for Red S, and I think eating good sources of iron like red meat and stuff, I think is pretty key. And I think fueling covers that pretty well.
Yeah, it's a great connection you've made there. And recently, Megan Keichman, sports nutrition researcher, now based in Australia, who's a former research colleague of Margot Mountjoy, the pioneer, if you like, of Red S, the terminology, and the shift from the female athlete triad to the Red S naming to recognise that males experience low energy availability as well. But Megan shared that exact point Ed, recently, and that is that if their iron stores are low, it can sometimes and oftentimes be a reflection of underfueling, i.e. you're just not getting enough fuel in, so therefore your iron status might be hampered. And practically, what would be your top 3 tips, Ed, for helping people reverse low energy availability states or reverse being in relative energy deficiency, Red S?
I mean, I think the first thing is fueling. Like, you just got to be able to get the right quantity in to sort of deal with the training you're doing. And I think the frequency as well of which you're eating plays a important role, because I think, one thing I've learned is, like, when the body is seeking out fuel sources, it sort of stores things, and sort of decreases your metabolism because it doesn't want to burn through what it's being provided. And so sort of when your body is used to being fueled constantly, your sort of metabolism increases, and your body can function in a more healthy manner. And like metabolism, like, it isn't just how you process food, like your better metabolism, like you process training better, you sleep better, like it sort of is a whole different raft of improvements.
So the top 3 tips for reversing Red S, or overcoming it: fuel, get the
I'd say fueling. As some people might find it a bit unnatural, but supplementation as well. Like, you just got to stay on top of that. And then I guess my third one would be relatively regular blood tests, because, like, honestly, that's the only way you really know for sure.
Blood tests, looking at sex hormone profiles.
Yeah. And the other thing with, like, blood tests, like, if you're getting a test, like, get everything tested. Like, you might as well. Like, it's the same amount of blood. Like, ask your doctor to get hormones checked, like things like testosterone. Like, you might as well, you know what I mean? Because it's,
it's interesting. And many times some of the important assays for bloods can be left off. So if you're an endurance athlete, I think it's critical, where possible, to have an oversight on the hormonal status. It does reflect so much of the health of the system. Ed, are you ready for a physical performance round?
For sure.
Rapid fire questions. Here we go. Training session most disliked?
I'd have to say easy days. As like dumb as that sounds, like, it's easy to just put your head down and churn through big blocks of work when your body's feeling good. It's the hardest thing sometimes just to relax and let your body recover when you feel like you could keep pushing on.
Training session most loved?
Long thresholds, also on the treadmill, which I know a lot of people don't get around, but there's just a certain skill I feel I've developed with running on a treadmill. Like, the pace is so constant, the cadence is a little bit quicker, and when you're in a race, I just find it helps me relax a lot, knowing that I'm so under control in the same situation on the treadmill. So, like, for example, for the half marathon, if I'm doing a 50-minute threshold at 2:56 on a treadmill, I know that getting through another 4Ks in a race at a similar pace will be easy.
Yeah, it's and in addition to typical treadmills, you also do spend that quite a significant time or have in the Alter G anti-gravity body weight supported.
For sure. Yeah. Especially post-marathon, I think the Alter G is almost built for that. So I think it's a good tool. And I think, sometimes you see even pro guys like hobbling around, dealing with like little niggles that have cropped up. And it's like, dude, just, if it's that fucked, just like take a day off or like get on the Alter G, you know what I mean? I just don't know why more people don't use it.
We had the pleasure of having you here in the clinic, Pogo Physio, here on the Gold Coast before the Gold Coast Half Marathon, and that was just a day before you were doing a run.
Yeah.
What was that run, just out of interest, the day before?
I just did 60 minutes of it, just like, crank the percentage right down. I think it was like 60% maybe. just so super slow and just, I don't know, no pounding, no worries.
Deloaded. Yeah, it was the first time I've seen that tactic or preparation deployed, but I actually think it has a lot of merit. Ed, back on the performance round, favourite pre-race meal?
It has to be pasta.
What was that?
Has to be pasta.
Pasta, sorry. Pasta, bedtime, morning time. From observations, you're quite a night owl.
Yeah, a bit of a night owl. I need to pull myself back a bit, but usually sort of if I'm in bed at 11:30 at night, that's good. And I sort of waking up at like 9 or a bit after is good as well. Like getting out the door sort of 9:30, 10 for just a standard morning run, like that would do.
Who's the athlete that Ed Goddard most admires and why?
I mean, at the moment, it'd be Joe Root, the English batsman. Growing up, Kevin Peterson and AB de Villiers. And then in the athletics world, I admired Mo Farah a lot growing up. I think sort of his breakthrough success in 2011, like I was in year 8 at the time, and I guess, that's kind of the time to fall in love with a track star.
And to date, have you crossed paths with Mo in person?
No, never. I can't share the same stories of which you can.
My less than illustrious introduction to Mo Farah, which we will share at some point. Toughest competitor, Ed Goddard, you've ever raced, who and why?
I guess at the moment, like I sort of find myself behind Brett, not infrequently. I mean, he's smart. I think it's funny because like I think he's at that level. What's he, like 30, 31 now maybe, where I think he's sort of reached running nirvana in terms of like knowledge and sort of how to read his body. And so I learned a lot from racing him and sort of how he goes about his business. It's sort of funny, like, I mean, even looking back when he was younger, like, I mean, he was more vocal on social media, sort of happy to get into Instagram arguments, I guess, or like make bold statements. And it's cool to see sort of how successful he is now, and so sort of how relaxed and calm he is in those manners, because I think that's kind of the that sort of realization that he's got nothing to prove, and so it's cool racing him because he races with a super calm head.
Yeah, and there's been a few great duels between yourself and Brett. Is there a mantra, Ed, that you use when racing or competing?
I mean, I just want to have fun. Like, I mean, I think so many people will take it like way too seriously. Like, I don't know. Like even in the call room, you see guys like super nervous, or like on the start line, people don't want to chat and stuff. And I know like some people sort of deal with it that way, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, like you want to have fun. You just want to, just want to have fun.
You seem very relaxed on start lines, which, as you point out, there is sometimes a juxtaposition to fellow competitors who are not relaxed or seemingly not relaxed. Yeah. Is that just inherent? When most people meet you or observe you, they, words that they might use are relaxed. Someone described you to me across the weekend here at the Gold Coast Marathon as it's like Ed was born in the 1980s and then frozen in time and then has been released again in 2020s. It's just your personality, relaxed. Yeah,
I mean, it's funny because like I guess when I sort of started racing at like a decent level, I used to emulate what other guys were doing, and I'd see guys wear their sort of like big headphones to the start like a line almost, jogging around in headphones, like jogging on their own, not really talking to other people, sort of getting their drills done all serious. And it's like, far out, like, bro, just have some fun with it. Like, honestly, like you run better when you're relaxed anyway. Like I know like I heard Brett talking about this, I remember on a podcast before Melbourne Marathon, where like even just by making yourself smile, it relaxes the body. And so, I mean, to be doing anything but smiling before a race, I guess is pretty dumb.
Well, simple but powerful. Ed, your best recovery tip?
Swimming. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a good sweet spot in terms of sort of water temperature. Like, I mean, if you ice bath after every workout, like, I mean, potentially you would stunt some adaptations. I mean, I remember reading an article on it, and the amount required to sort of stunt adaptation was a lot of icing over a long period of time. But I mean, anyway, like, I think if you're swimming in water that's like, I don't know, 25 to like 14 degrees, like, you're not going to stunt any adaptations, and you're just going to help flush out your body, get in the water, have a good stretch, have fun, like whatever.
Swimming. Ed, one word to describe your racing style?
Reckless.
Reckless. How would you describe being in the zone?
I mean, I think being in the zone, like, I think there's like being in the zone, and then there's like that other kind of almost like, I don't know, it's almost like a spiritual experience when you're tapered down, the race has started, and you're running super quick, but like you're feeling really good. And it's almost like you can look down upon yourself and be like, wow, like I'm rolling and feeling easy. And that's like the good zone, that kind of like marathon zone, which I felt for like 30 Ks, but like kind of rooted myself with some poor tactics in the back end of one. So hopefully I can sort of feel that good for all 42 Ks soon.
And it's a real, yeah, I like what you described. It's spiritual in sense. It's almost out of body. It's
exactly.
It's something that every athlete recognizes and cherishes, and you never know when it's gonna kick in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when was the last time you were in the zone? Were you in the zone at the recent Gold Coast Half Marathon?
I mean, the last time I was in the zone, I think, was Manchester Marathon. But I mean, like, properly in the zone was probably like Launceston Half, honestly. Like, I was sort of cranking. I mean, I ran like a 2-minute PB. So, I mean, I was pretty happy with that. But it's funny, like, I had the worst preparation ever for Manchester Marathon. Like, in the 3 weeks beforehand, I had 70 hours of flying. I went Europe back and then back to Europe, and arrived sort of Wednesday, Thursday before the race. I had COVID and salmonella in that period, which was the reason for coming back in the first place to Australia. And I mean, even though my muscles like were tight, I was sort of having a bit of an out-of-body experience, and then I, for some stupid reason, decided I should sort of try to push the pace at 31 Ks and tried to sort of cover every move thereafter. And then, yeah, the last 4 Ks, I cramped up a lot.
And still ran a PB, but there's still a lot more to see from you.
Yeah, we'll get there.
And final question in the performance round: what's the hardest session you can recall ever doing? And we know that epic sessions don't make champions, but it's still a fun question to explore.
I mean, it's funny because, like, I think the hardest session, like, you can break it down 2 ways. Like, there's the hardest session on paper, which I did like a Michigan workout sort of called, where it was the workout I did was 2K tempo, and then I went mile hard, 2K tempo, 1200 hard, 2K tempo, 1K hard, 2K tempo, 800, 2K 600, 2K 400. And that was like super long, but like I felt good during it. I mean, I was also solo, and so like maybe I could have run a bit quicker on some of my hard efforts, but I mean, I was still running like decently quick. I think like my 8 was like maybe 2:08 or something, 2:07. But I mean, hardest session, like, I think some of the time I spent with Melbourne Track Club back in the day, And I mean, we're all sort of working out together. And I mean, even up at Falls Creek, like when I had low iron and you're sort of cranking out K reps at altitude and you're feeling pretty dusty after 4 of them, I think they're probably the physically, I don't know. They're just, yeah, some of those days where you're just not locked in.
Well done, Ed. You're out of the performance round. There's 2 set questions that every guest of the show gets issued. And here's the first. If you could boil everything that you've learnt to date in your young career into one piece of advice to help listeners of this show perform at their physical best, what would Ed Goddard's solitary piece of advice be?
Yeah, I'd just say find like to make running sustainable, like find the funnest way of which you can sort of hit all your like KPIs, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's my big one. It's like you want to be able to do the work, but you want to also have fun doing the work. Like it has to be the right work. Like if I was like, oh, like I only find it fun to run half an hour a day, like I'm never going to be a successful marathoner. But if I'm like, in my long runs, I run with some of my best mates on Sunday morning and we do cool loops. Like, I mean, that's a pretty sustainable way to make sure you're getting a long run in. And same thing with workouts and other thing. And I guess the other thing is like, you want to surround yourself with people who look after you. And that's like friends and training partners. That's like people who support you from like, it could be like, just acquaintances, like guys you sort of see on a daily basis. Like if you go to some guy's like cafe for lunch and he's a nice guy, like just roll with that. Or like, yeah, I mean, you just got to, and like the other thing is like surround yourself with people who sort of have your best interest at heart from like a performance standpoint. So like got to have a coach who like is bought into what you're doing. Like physios, healthcare guys, people you trust and people you're willing to listen to. I think that's a big thing. So like, yeah, make it fun and sustainable and surround yourself with a good support network.
Yeah, powerful. And your current coach, Gavin Burren, and also significant influence in your running life as a mentor, Wayne Larden.
For sure. Yeah. No, it's fun working with those guys. I mean, I like working with Gavin because it's relaxed and it's fun. And I mean, he gives me a lot of creative license. But he's someone I trust and someone I can, always come to with sort of something that needs solved. And it's sort of fun to design workouts with him. I mean, the same with Wayne. And working with Wayne is sort of as sort of a mentor and a lot of other things as well, sort of taking me from that post-college level sort of to the more international scene, I guess.
Yeah, once again, surrounding yourself with a great team. Ed, and final set question here is every guest issues listeners with a physical challenge for the week. So what is Ed Goddard's physical challenge going to be to listeners?
My physical challenge? I'd say get strides in after an easy jog. I'd say just get your strides in. Like, I mean, it's the easiest way to build speed. And it's ironic because like, I reckon I spent like 12 months with my college coach being like, fuck this. Like, I don't want to go out on the oval and do strides. Like, I just want to go and sort of get changed and just like, and just like, I don't know, get on with the day. But like, I mean, just doing strides, like it's so key. And so, I mean, Joe, I doubt he's listening, but if he is, I mean, I apologize for giving you a hard time.
And when you say strides, you're talking about how many?
I mean, just like, even just 4 to 6, 4 to 8 kind of thing, just like 20 to 30 seconds. Like, yeah, I mean, it's just so key in speed development.
Is that something you do every easy run? Or just?
I mean, I wouldn't do it every easy run, but like just twice a week. I mean, especially like I know there's a big trend towards doing just 2 workouts a week. I used to do 3 until more recently. But I mean, especially when you're doing 2 workouts a week, yeah, you just want to be staying topped up with that speed and just that muscle memory of running quickly. Like, I mean, it's funny, like at the moment, I mean, I went into Launceston like kind of underdone in the sense that like I raced 2 marathons. Now I've raced 2 half marathons and 2 10Ks in the last 11 weeks. Like it's a lot of running, a lot of racing. And so, I mean, I pulled up well from that big Europe trip, but like I've only just been doing sort of 1 workout a week. I mean, my last week's workout was Launceston, so I've had a pretty relaxed week just off the back of that in terms of just jogging. But I mean, like, yeah, like if you're just not getting those sessions in as frequently, or you just need to keep that speed topped up, like it's the best way. And then when you get to race day, like your body's used to ticking over it like quicker than race pace.
So the power of strides, Ed, well done. Many people do want to know about the golden mullet. That become somewhat symbolic along with your Oakley sunglasses and pole.
Yeah.
What's the story with the mullet, Ed? Is it your superpower?
I mean, now it is. I think, yeah. I mean, there's not many day jobs where a mullet is appropriate work attire. And so, I mean, while I'm running at sort of this level, like, yeah, it's going to be part of it. I mean, and I guess, like, if you're listening to 70s music, like Mark Bowl and, like, Mick Jagger, like, everyone had long hair. So, I mean, you might as well keep it going because someone's got to do it.
Ed Goddard, you are an Australian running star on the rise and always a whole lot of fun. And I think that's something that you've really outlined in your sharings on this recording, and that is, the importance of keeping it fun. So well done.
For sure.
Keep it
thanks
fun.
for having me.
And we
I shall.
All look forwards to seeing the rise of Ed Goddard in the coming years.
Yeah, London Marathon. We'll get after it.